This is Millie Weaver. We're here at CPAC 2020. I'm here with Elijah Schaffer. His channel is called Slightly Offensive. It's really grown. How many followers do you have now, Elijah?
Oh, just on YouTube or on other platforms?
On YouTube.
It's got like 223,000, and it probably would be bigger if it wasn't for YouTube. You know, of course, censoring all of us. You yourself included. I know you saw that for a while. They were getting you, and you found a way around it, though. You started actually making content that the people want, and then you learn too, rather than just action. Good content always beats bad algorithms. The people find the content that they want when they want it for the matters that are important to them. And so, yeah, you can go with that slapstick action stuff, but now that you're finding out, hey, what does the base really want? What do they need? What are they trying to hear? What's not being said? You tapped into that really well, and I've seen you've been growing a lot too. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you, Elijah. You know, if people want information, they'll dig for it, right? They'll search for it. So, what got you interested in getting into politics in the first place?
Honestly, it was this rise where I was in school, and I started noticing that we had this game where you would go to one side of the room if you agreed or disagreed with a topic, and they would bring up abortion and communism. And I noticed that as one kid would agree with something, all the rest of the kids would follow that person to the other side. And on almost every liberal topic in California, everyone always agreed with the typical progressive talking points. But I kept disagreeing, and I learned in that moment that I was actually somebody who thought for myself. And while everyone mocked me and chastised me, I always beat them because I had a reason behind what I believed. And then I went onto YouTube, and I found somebody, this guy. He seemed to have problems with obesity and emphysema, and he started talking, and he says, Obama's gonna come. He's gonna come in, and he's gonna institute communism. Now I know that he doesn't have emphysema or he's still a little chubby, but I love my Alex Chubby. Alex Jones was there, and he opened me up to a documentary called The Obama Deception, which really talked about the truth of the deep state and what's going on and the control behind the scenes of placing somebody, how they needed a black face to be put in so that if you came against him, you'd be called a racist. And I started learning about left-wing tactics, about how they manipulate minds, and I went right out the gate, right there forward. And I didn't call myself a conservative. I didn't register as a Republican. I was a teenager, but I knew what I believed, and those values. I could tell who loved the country and who didn't just by hearing him talk.
Wow, that's pretty amazing that he really opened your mind like that. Now, how is it when you go out and confront with these Antifa? I mean, do you think that they're getting worse? Are they getting more violent?
That's a good question. I think Antifa, of course, is different depending on which location you go to. I mean, you yourself are familiar, right? I mean, whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, it's much different. Even if you're in LA versus Portland. Portland Antifa, and I'll say this to the audience, they are radical domestic terrorists. They are violent individuals. Of course, their hits don't hurt that bad, of course, because if you take dry noodles and slap them on your arm, that's how it feels to be hit by an Antifa. But they use brass knuckles now. I think they actually gave me a concussion. They dented the back of my head in recently by just cheap shot in the back of the head. So they're getting more violent, but their tactics are still the same. They're deceptive, they're dishonest, they're hiding their faces. And what I've been finding is the women are more violent than men. The men are weak. They don't use super male vitality, apparently. They are very weak individuals, and they don't fight, and they're letting the women fight for them, and the women are unhinged. They're not graceful women. They're not self-controlled women. They're not women who have beauty. They're using uncontrolled violence, and a violent woman is scary as hell. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, I'm surprised they tried to attack you. Usually Antifa go for the weak, and you're a pretty big guy, so I can't imagine. Usually they try to pick on old people and small women and stuff like that. But, I mean, socialists, right? These communist socialists, these Antifa who think that we should just burn the flag and turn America into a communist country. Do you think that socialism is a real problem in America?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And I know there's some talking points right now by certain sectors of our side, I would say, who say, oh, socialism isn't a problem. Socialism sucks is a dumb statement. Fine, whatever. The PR for it, if you can disagree with, is fine. Socialism is definitely a problem. And I'll tell you this, I have communist friends in California, and I looked at their Facebook reports, and I've watched their tweets surface, socialists and communists, as Bernie's been getting traction, talking about how they're going to take mansions away from the rich, putting pictures of weapons, of rifles, saying, hey, I'm locked and loaded. And when I challenged them, I said, are you saying you're going to steal people's mansions, that you're going to shoot people or whatever? One of the guys goes, oh, no, that's not what we're saying. And then a guy comes under and says, hell yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'll take their mansions. That's what I'm going to do, with pictures of guns. These are the real violent people. And the problem that we have today is that the reason why socialism is rising is because we're not playing by the same rules. In fact, if you are left-wing and you are violent, if you're provocative, you can instigate something thing. And if you're right-wing or conservative or libertarian, you fight back, you get in trouble. You're the one that gets taken down. So if we talk about anything, just like a moratorium on immigration, immediately deleted, you're a racist, you're a fascist. But if you talk about a Bolshevik, Leninist revolution in the United States, if you talk about what's responsible for killing 100 million people that we've recorded, you can't trust communist records, right? These people are rising.
It really is true. It happened, and that's something that kind of comes close to home for me because actually my mother's stepmother, okay, Karina, her family came and fled the Bolsheviks. Okay, so my mom tells me stories about how she'd be driving around with her, step-grandfather, and he would just be ranting like, the Bolsheviks, it was the Bolsheviks. Like, he would just rant to her about the Bolsheviks because the Bolsheviks, their family used to actually have a mega mansion estate in that country, and when the Bolsheviks came, they stole it, they stole everything, and the family barely escaped with their lives, and that was that. All of their family's livelihoods, legacies, gone. I think they turned the big building, the house, into a government building, but it's real, and it could happen in any country if people become if they just buy into the lies of socialism. So do you think that Bernie Sanders actually has a real shot at winning here?
Unfortunately, I do. And I know if the system was just a little bit different, he probably would win the nomination. Now, not the election. Because what you have to realize is during the Cold War, we had our guards up. We knew that communism was bad. We didn't like these socialist policies. We had hunts in private industries understanding that these people were toxic. But they infiltrated our universities. They began to spread their ideas like the coronavirus, just pushing it and pushing it. And before you knew it, why would you trust the communists to tell the truth? Before you knew it, they were in the minds of our education system, and they had begun to brainwash the children. Now, what's happened is with Bernie, right? Like, I think a third right now of young Americans think socialism is a good idea, but when asked, they can't explain to you what it even is. We're a generation that accepts just what's different, what's novel, what's new. We're the porn generation. Give me something harder, give me something deeper. But not looking at, well, what's the effects of pornography on your mind? It's destructive. Okay, socialism is new, but is new always good? No, because we can look at other countries, their histories, to see what this brings us. And what happens is we let our guard down, and now, and I'm going to say this carefully because Bernie Sanders, people do not like me, they do not like you, and the reason why they don't is because we're exposing the truth, okay? And here's the absolute truth here. And I say this with indemnity, and I hold harmless myself. Just a few decades ago, American boys gave their lives to fight in wars, supporting countries who were trying to prevent people like Bernie Sanders from taking over their country. I'm telling you that. I'm not promoting violence. I don't promote that. Do not take me out of context. American boys died and gave their lives. Foreigners died. We put billions of dollars into other countries to prevent someone like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from having influence in their countries. And now, if you even criticize her teeth, Alexandria's teeth, if you even make a joke that Bernie Sanders can't even shower, suddenly, because he fell in the shower, don't forget that one. He wants to run the country, but he can't get into a shower. You are called a violent extremist. You are called a fascist. You are called a racist. You're fearful. You're a fearmonger. It's like, no, I'm not. I just know history, and I don't want history to repeat itself.
Yeah, and hopefully it doesn't. I know we hear President Trump say that America will never be a socialist country, and I really hope that is true. I hope that Trump will do well in the election. I hope that the American people will wake up and essentially get the truth, get the information. Now, let's talk about the truth. Let's talk about how media is trying to, there's the mainstream media, right? We've got the big broadcast media out there, and then we also have people like us. People like you go around to these rallies, you go to these protests, you give coverage, and then we're seeing how on social media you're being silenced, the algorithms are getting you, your voice is being silenced, you're probably being demonetized just like I am. I mean, how are you experiencing censorship on social media?
Yeah, I know that so some creators like Hunter Avalon and different people who have made comments about how this tech censorship isn't really real against conservatives. And while Hunter's a friend of mine, I have nothing against him. I'd have to formally disagree on that point. The thing about censorship is that censorship is about making sure ideas don't get to people. It's not just about deplatforming or removing or killing. It's censoring and bringing down the ability for an idea. For instance, if you're in a movie, people don't think about it so simply, and they say the F word. Well, they can say that there, but when it gets broadcasted on TV, they have decided, the FCC, that the F word is not something that American families should be watching. The TV is flipped to, it's not paid for directly per channel. And so if you go watch this, you should feel safe enough to know for your family that the F word is something we've universally agreed is bad, and you're not going to hear it at home. So it's bleeped. That's a censor. It bleeps out a word. Now the F word may not be so important, but what's really crazy is that sometimes there's some movies that can't be put on TV because there's so many scenes that would have to be censored that you would lose the narrative, you would lose the story of what's going on. And that's what's happening in our society. I understand some things are just inappropriate. YouTube might be like, hey, we don't want beheading videos on our site. And that's a little F word, that's a bleep. That's not safe for children. But what's happening is standard ideas like what we bring, established mainstream ideas, which I would say the mainstream establishment has rejected. You guys have rejected the real conservatism. You guys have rejected the real right-wingism. You're the ones who have rejected it. We've maintained it. And the problem with that is we bring that back to the platform while the establishment is afraid, and they mock us. We know who CPAC doesn't let on the stage. We know who they're not allowing to speak. We know what conversations are being thwarted. And we're trying to bring those to light online through our platforms. And Google knows that. And they know the people like the whistleblowers at, like you were mentioning, the whistleblower at Veritas who said he watched videos like this. I'm not going to mention him by name. He watched like this. And this is what changed his mind. And they know that these videos are changing mind because the truth sets you free. And so they've come in very hard. And that's where someone goes, why are you complaining about the algorithms? Demonetization. I don't care about demonetization for myself. I care about it for the little guys who know something I don't. Now they don't have a voice. I'm established. I make money. But I don't care about myself. I care about the movement of truth. And there are things I don't know because I'm blinded. And there are young people who are rising up, the young generation Z, who are seeing things I'm not. You're not seeing. You're Millennial Millie, right? These are Gen Z, these are Zoomers. And they're seeing, and they're not having a voice because why? They can't make a living off it. They can't get their videos out. And even people like us, kids can't watch our videos. It's not getting out there. And they know they're not targeting us here. They're targeting the next generation.
Oh, yeah.
Because
we know that it's because social media giants are predominantly liberal. They've got liberal bias there. You see who works at Google and all these companies. It's a bunch of pink, purple-haired SJWs that hate America and hate Trump and hate conservatives and hate values that people like me and Elijah hold. So that's why we're being censored there. And one other question, Elijah, what do you want to see happen after 2020? Like, what do you want to see happen after 2020? Do you want to see, Trump, like, what do you want to see Trump do?
Yeah, well,
if he wins.
Yeah. Well, if he wins, I'm pretty sure he's going to win. And if he doesn't win, I mean, look, if he wins, they're going to say there's some reason why he won. They're going to make something up. If he doesn't win, they're going to make up another reason, why we should prosecute him even more. They want to go after him. They want blood. But when Trump...
Well, hold on. Let me rephrase the question. What would you like to see the president do about social media censorship? Should he do anything?
This is really scary. I think that in order to have a good capitalist society, there needs to be policies in place that promote nationalism. And I think that countries like Google that are working in cooperation with the communist government in China are doing criminal activities. Do you know that the lab that was set up to handle in Wuhan province, the lab where they think something might have leaked from, or whatever, I don't want to get into it, was actually, there was a lab there and it was it was built by a Harvard professor who's been receiving millions of dollars from the Chinese government to build their facilities. Now, when they brought American technology over there, the Chinese didn't know what to do with that technology, and now we have this disaster on our hands. That being said, that guy got arrested. But these tech companies, the professor got arrested for taking money from China, for causing a problem. But yes, the coronavirus, these things are killing people right now, but our future is at stake because of what these tech companies are doing, and they're putting firewalls up in China, and I think that Trump should work first and foremost to end their cooperation with foreign governments, to institute totalitarian ideas. That's easy. That's not capitalism. That's American patriotism. Stop working with the Chinese government. Stop working with Vietnam. Stop working with Saudi Arabia. The airline companies and tech companies, if you're a woman, it's abusive and you can't leave the country, they try to escape in Saudi Arabia, and if the airline catches the woman who bought a ticket on her husband's credit card, they will send her back and the woman will be killed for deserting. And our American companies are working with the enemy. And if they're so openly working with the enemy, there needs to be an audit internally to see how they're working against the American people. They are not aligned with the American people. If you can align with Xi Jinping, dictator for life, and Winnie the Pooh doppelganger, okay, if you can align with him, then who knows who they're aligning against? China is an enemy of the United States. They are a trade partner, and we've gotten too sweet with the money that's going in our pockets. Their products suck anyways, so I don't know what we're all doing about that. But ultimately speaking, Trump needs to call them out for they are working with the enemy, and that is not only espionage level, but they are traitors to the United States. They need to be held accountable. There needs to be restructuring, and ultimately, once we get down to that level, if you can support Xi Jinping, then you can come against your own people. And that's what they're doing. And they need to be held accountable, not as private enterprises, but as people who are working against the freedoms of their own citizens. They're traitors.
Wow. Well, we know if the Democrats were in power, they wouldn't be holding China to anything at all. What do you think would happen if the Democrats were in charge and we have this coronavirus outbreak? I mean, with the policies that the Democrats want to have with open borders, do you think that the Democrats would be able to contain something like the coronavirus with those policies?
I think the Democrats work as a totalitarians to hide information. I think they're very keen on making, like, what I want to point out before I attack any politician specifically, when companies like the New York Times, right, the most trusted news in America, is taking official releases from Beijing on the coronavirus and reporting them as fact and not saying, at least to the very effect, this is what we've heard from Beijing, but Beijing is a bloody, sadistic, lying regime that kills and removes and hurts its own people. If you can't tell people and remind people, remember, the newspaper is supposed to be written for what, 4th, 6th grade audience? It was meant, they know the people that are reading it are kind of stupid, and they manipulate it, they work with them. So if liberal progressive outlets will take official press releases, then who knows what they would hide to do. And I think the Democrats are happy the coronavirus is out, because as long as it crashes the economy, they will see the world crash and burn as long as it tries to get Trump not reelected, and that's what's sad about it.
Remember, I'm listener supported, so please go to InfoWarsStore.com to support my work. Take advantage of some of the great deals and the great products we have available so you can both help take care of your own health and help us fight the info war. You can also go to Millie Weaver on Subscribestar to support me directly if you choose to. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to give you my next video.
The future is now.
They had us as number 1 on Android, number 3 on Apple. Then we went back to get screenshots because our numbers showed us number 1, and we're gone.
How did you decide to ban Alex Jones?
What users want from us, and what we've always provided them, is a curated platform. If you're going to curate, that should be all.
Let me tell Tim Cook something. We're watching you and what you're doing.
InfoWars is steps ahead of the globalists and their censorship agenda.
Getting ready to launch the next few months new apps. Now it's easier than ever to have band.video on your iPhone. Simply go to band.video with your Safari browser. Then you click the share button at the bottom of the screen. When the menu comes up, you simply click Add to Home Screen. You will now have band.video app on your home screen, despite the fact that Tim Cook tried to stop it. So it's up to you whether you want to defy big tech and click the share buttons below. Be sure and share band.video.